I'd like to call the meeting of the Jacksonville Planning Advisory Board for October 13th, 2014. We'll have Teresa Vanderveer give the Pledge of Allegiance and Danny Williams give the invocation. If you'll stand, please.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Shall we pray? Heavenly Father, how thankful we are for this day. Lord, this beautiful day that you've given us. Lord, we ask you just to be with us tonight, each one. And as we cover things for the city, Lord, we pray that we have the insight that you have given us and blessed us with. We ask this in your name. Amen.
Amen. I want to thank everyone for coming tonight. We took a month off, but we're back. And at this time, you've all had your agendas mailed to you. If you would take a look through them, and if we could please get a motion to approve the agenda.
Make a motion.
Motion by Mr. Williams to approve the agenda.
Second.
Second by Dr. Lasan. Any questions? All those in favor, please signify by raising your right hand. All those opposed, like. Motion passes. If you would, please take a few moments to look through the approval of the minutes. I know it was a long time ago. It was 2 months.
Mr. Chairman.
Yes,
Please
sir.
note there was an amendment that's at your places that was for you as the new chairman to sign, and that would be one change to your minutes.
So when you make a motion, please move with as amended. Okay. Hearing no discussion, if I could get a motion to this order.
Make a motion.
Motion by Mr. Williams to approve the minutes, am I correct, as amended?
Second.
Second by Ms. Vanderveer. All those opposed, all those in favor, please raise your right hand. All those opposed, like. Motion passes. City Council update. Who's up?
I will do that tonight. So at the August 19th City Council meeting, the City Council approved 2 map amendments. One was for a rezoning from corridor commercial and residential single-family 7 split zone, basically, to corridor commercial, and that was located at 110 South Marine Boulevard. And the other map amendment was also a rezoning, and they approved the rezoning on Ward Street for one of the parcels, I believe it was, from downtown residential to downtown business. That was actually for 3 properties. They did not approve or deny, they deferred the text amendment that was pertaining to Article 4, use table and use-specific standards for flex space in downtown business. So they approved the rezoning but did not make changes to the use table and deferred action to a future workshop. And on October 7th, 2014, there was no city council meeting. That is all that I have.
I will say I saw the council meeting when they were discussing the text amendment on the flex space, and there seemed like there was a lot of discussion and some questions, so they quite wisely just decided instead of giving a yay or nay, they said, well, let's take a look at it a little more and give people a chance to take a look at it.
Correct. One thing that us planners and you as the planning board and city council and residents have to realize is that the new Unified Development Ordinance, we have things called use-specific standards. We did not have those before. Under the old code, it was basically you could or couldn't have it. With the use-specific standards, it basically identifies things that allow a particular use to go in a specific zone, but adds some tailor-made standards to that specific use. So it's not a one-size-fits-all approach. So if an office next to commercial, let's just say, buffering's not necessary because they're similar commercial type uses, it may say that there's no buffering required for that unless it's next to residential. So it really allows more, specific criteria. The other thing that I think that was being missed that night was that we were actually trying to allow a use that now is not permitted. It wasn't permitted before that meeting, and it's still not permitted tonight. So we were trying to actually allow a new use. We just wanted it to have some specific standards that would make it acceptable to go in the downtown district. And I think there was a real focus on those strict use-specific standards as being strict, but really we were trying to loosen the ordinance by allowing the use, but with some caveats, if you will. So just something that we all need to get used to is the new code. There are different things in the UDO that we didn't have before, and it's intended to be a help, not a hindrance. And we just have to keep focused that that's really what it's for. It's that it looks at a specific use and says, okay, that use is okay, but we also want to protect certain things. And where you see those other use-specific standards that we've been applying over the years has been adult businesses, the cell phone towers, the billboards. So it's stuff that we've already been applying for a few uses. Now we have them for even more. So just something to think about as we move forward.
Thank you, Ryan. I know you guys put a lot of work into that, and I know sometimes things don't work out exactly the way we thought they were, but we appreciate it anyway. Okay, old business, we have none, so it looks like we're on to new business. Who's up first? Abigail.
For you tonight, and I'll go through both of them. There's a similar situation where a property owner acquired neighboring property, is looking to expand, and in order to do that, they're going to have to do a rezoning. So we'll start with 202 and 204 Sunset. This is right off Marine, the two parcels highlighted. Here is an overview. You can see the commercial site, the neighboring property that they're looking to expand into. Here is a picture of 202 Sunset, 204 Sunset. Here is looking across the street from those two properties, looking towards 17 Marine Boulevard, and looking away to the north back down Sunset. The future land use shows this as low-density residential, and it's right adjacent to the pink, the regional commercial. So with this rezoning, we would suggest that you direct us to also change the CAMA future land use to the regional commercial use adjacent to it. The current zoning is residential single-family 7, and the request for the rezoning is to commercial corridor. And I'll be happy to answer any questions you might have about the property.
Is that property right adjacent to Moore's Buick? Is that?
It is, and that's actually the CDW Holdings is the same property owner. So the Moore Buick has purchased that adjacent property and potentially looking to do an expansion.
Could you go back to the street view photographs
Mhm.
of the adjacent house with the children's
This one?
toys in the yard? Can you talk a little bit about what buffering you're going to require and it just, the first two buildings you look at, but the one you were just at, seems like there's some children's toys out in the yard there and
So that one, yes, that property is actually this one here across the street, that picture. So when they submit any kind of plan to do their expansion, they would be required the buffering adjacent to the residential. I don't believe, they would be required the street landscaping and that, but I don't believe any buffer because there's a street separating them.
And would it be appropriate, I think, to limit any access from the commercial onto that feeder residential road? I mean, driveway access, is there ample access already in that? I know that
I'll
the
flip
first two
over the-
parcels they have on the road, they actually park cars nose to nose to
Yeah.
keep you from even using that
Yeah, those
driveway.
accesses there. Yeah, and then
They
they have
kinda-
this one here. We have not seen any plans from them yet,
Mm.
so I don't know if they're going to be proposing any access, but anything that they would have to meet our driveway criteria.
Now, would you, if this was approved, allow a driveway in onto that Sunset?
I
I'm
don't know
not
that there's a
sure.
way we could prevent
Yeah, I'm not sure we
access.
have any standards that would prevent it.
That bothers me a little bit about this use in particular. I don't necessarily have a problem with it if it would just prevent it a little bit from being a feeder into that
Mm-hmm.
neighborhood for some reason.
And that third piece of property, you know, just beyond it, it's gonna be almost surrounded by commercial property on those two sides.
Yes, and I don't know if they've approached that property owner trying to buy it. I'm not sure what the situation with it is, but the Moore Buick does own these two now, and that's why they're seeking the rezoning.
Yeah, going off of memory, and I'd have to go back and check, I'm pretty sure that
CDW Holdings.
CDW Holdings has actually owned both of these properties for several years now. So this isn't a recent acquisition, let's try to rezone it now. They've owned it for some time.
Sure.
Just based on my recollection from previous
But there's
workings.
homes there now that they probably will tear down, right?
Correct, they own the homes that are there.
We can assume that more Buick is expanding. That's the reason
Oh, yeah.
for this request.
Yeah.
It could happen, it may be 10 years from now. I mean, but it's certainly safe to assume that once it's zoned commercial, it can be utilized for commercial, reasons.
Yeah, that would be our assumption that they would want to extend, but we have not received any plans or anything indicating that they're trying to do that in the immediate future.
So could you discuss a little bit about what kind of limitations we could put on this for driveways or use if this was approved, or are there none?
As it is proposed with this rezoning, there wouldn't be any conditions. The applicant would have to agree to any of the conditions put on the rezoning.
Yeah, we'd have to discuss with the applicant, them changing the application to a conditional rezoning request. I think they're valid concerns that you bring up, and that may factor into the board's decision in recommending approval, or denial. There's nobody here representing the applicant that would be able to speak to this. You could defer action.
Yeah, my main issue is if we allowed a driveway, the way they block off the other ones, there's only the one main at the traffic light, and it seems like there's a lot of opportunity for them to funnel traffic through that, and that's my biggest concern, so.
Yeah, one thing I would point out is that with access points, you've got a couple of different things there. You've got fire code requirements that may require them, and you also have spacing from intersections. And the driveway that's on your screen closest to 17, if they were to do any kind of an expansion, DOT the city would require that they close that driveway down to get traffic further away from 17. So just, saying, hey, no access point on that property, I mean, I'd be careful about, just saying no access point. But I think you do bring up valid concerns at the same time, so it's kind of juggling that issue.
And they do have the one access here already off of
Yeah, that's the
Sunset.
access I'm talking about, the DOT could close down.
Well, they
the city
always
could close
park
down.
nose to nose, you can't use it, so. they
Right, but
force
if there
you
was
not to.
something that triggered either a desire or a code requirement to make them have two forms of ingress and egress. Now, they also own the property that's to the north. So, I mean, they already have another access on 17. So that may suffice for any second form of ingress or egress. So I'm not discrediting your concern. I think it's a valid concern. I think, one, it's just a standard application that doesn't really allow us to put conditions on. That would take an application amendment. And number two, the concern about the second access, should one be required versus any condition, should they revise the application.
And these are two independent parcels with two independent uses. I mean, they're not being combined with the other site.
They're all under the same ownership, and I would assume if they do developments, there would be they would combine the parcels.
The neighboring owners could still have something to say about the rezoning, couldn't they?
And they'd have another opportunity at the city council too, and they notified through mail, and it will be in the paper and all of that.
Refresh my memory a little bit on setback of the two parcels. Would it be greater than that required of the residential that's right adjacent to it?
I don't think so. They'd have an 8-foot street lawn, and that probably would be the extent of it.
Okay.
They would still have the minimum building line of the corridor commercial zone,
Which I believe is 35.
35 feet through site plan 2. They could reduce to as little as 10.
Yeah, so by code, they would have to be 35 feet setback from there.
But that's building setback.
Yeah, so they
So
could still do
park
parking.
cars within 8 feet of the property line, if that's their desire.
Now, if they expand that into so they're saying that everything is fronting 17, would Sunset be a side yard at that point? You follow what I mean? If they combine the parcels and
Yeah,
then you
if they
had a
make this the
frontage
new
on,
parcel.
yeah, then you'd have a different scenario on that, wouldn't you?
And based on our non-conforming section and how much improvement they do, if they do combine this parcel and they do improvements there, they would have to upgrade the entire site, which make it more landscaping on there, depending on how they fall in the non-conforming section.
The 35-foot setback and 10-foot with a type 2, which would require city council approval, is still applicable, even though that is a side yard per se.
I see.
I think, Alex, you've made some very good points. This rezoning does extend a little further into the residential area than we usually would desire. I might also note that the people of Sunset Acres, a lot of them been longtime residents there. And right now, when they come out of Sunset Acres, they use that road. And they don't compete with anybody to get out because Moore Buick has closed off that access point. So right now, they have a straight shot out. And if somebody opens up other roads into that, then they're going to have a little more traffic getting out in the morning. You may hear some complaints about that. I would probably wager that the person across the street from this would definitely raise some questions when he gets notified that it's going to be a rezoning. Again, a lot of it just depends on what it's going to be used for, and I know that's not something we consider is what it's being used for. I mean, if it's just a parking lot, that really wouldn't add a whole lot. But if you're going to put something like a body shop there, and you're going to have a lot of people coming in and out, that could change. You have to remember that whatever we zone it, it's going to be all allowable uses now and in the future. Any other discussion?
Does Sunset Acres have another exit besides this
It
one?
connects through back here to like the commons area, and then you can get out to Western through there. You kind of have to wind through the subdivision a little bit.
To Western, not to 17.
Yeah.
No, you can
They have
go
one
out.
to the south, too.
You can come out and go out toward
There you go.
Empire Boulevard.
Yeah, here this shows a little bit better, so you can
Yeah.
kind of
Dixie Trail.
wind.
It's a lot better, yeah.
You just got to know your
And
way
you
around.
come back to
Yeah.
17.
The local.
Yeah.
Almost like through
Done
Northwood.
Dixie.
Yes.
Yeah. And you can access 17 through Dixie Trail right there.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's-
Yeah. The only problem is that when you say, even though you can access, if everybody now tries to access through Dixie Trail, that's going to put more traffic on Dixie Trail, and it's going to make, Sunset Road will be a little easier, but Dixie Trail will be a little more.
And a lot more farther for the people right there.
And those roads are not exactly city standards, if I remember correctly. Right? I mean, it's a relatively old development.
I would think that, it's a rezoning request, that at the time when they come back at some point and let us know what they're gonna be doing there, whether it's gonna come before us or through planning, that conditions can be set at that time, Am I wrong? So if we change this rezoning to what they're wanting for commercial, and then they finally come to it with a site plan saying we're gonna put a body shop, or we're just gonna put parking, that's all we're gonna do, just to load up all our cars, can we not, at that time, put conditions on that at that time?
If it's a legal use, they can do it.
Okay.
They just have to follow those use-specific standards
it
and
out
the
there
other
for-
sections of the
Yeah.
ordinance.
Thought to say, can we set the limits at that time? All right.
And either way, I mean, unless we defer this, if we pass it, it goes to city council, and if we deny it, it goes to city council. If we defer it, what would happen? It would come back to us, or it would go to city council?
If you defer, you would have it come back to you.
Yeah.
Okay.
And if you go that route, we just simply want to know what type of things that we need to discuss with the applicant so that when we bring it back to you next month, that we can try to have those questions answered.
And we have not yet put signs on this property yet?
Not yet.
Okay.
Does that not sound like something reasonable to do? Find out a little bit more what they're going to do?
The board could certainly do that.
Well, like you said, they've owned the property for quite some time, so whether we wait an additional month, it's not gonna make or break, this whole situation. It doesn't sound like they're ready to move ahead with anything other than just get the rezoning done and then plan from there.
Yeah, I don't know if Jeremy's heard anything, but I know we have not heard
You
any
haven't heard anything,
specific
so-
development
right,
plans
so
to
if-
give you
if
any
we
kind of idea of what they're looking at.
Decide to defer this thing, and, we're only looking at a month away anyway, and then that way they can address our concerns or issues, whether it's from the residential standpoint across the street, like Alex brought up, or any other, what is their ideas, what's planning there? I mean, it's a commercial business, they're wanting commercial use, but at least if we have some ideas of what they're doing, that may help us decide, at that time, if there's some restrictions we're gonna put on it. Okay.
Please.
Okay, I move to recommend approval of the rezoning request based on findings of fact A, B, and D being found in the affirmative.
I've been made aware that instead of B, it needs to be C, so would you make that correction? A, C, and D?
Findings of fact A, C, and D being found in the affirmative.
We have a motion to approve the rezoning from Ms. Moore. May we have a second? Second from Mr. Keys. Any discussion?
Can you go back one picture? Yeah, right there. On the very back. There's nothing there, is there? Is there anything there?
Where do you mean on the very back?
I see a building, but it doesn't look like it's any residential, in the very back.
This back here?
No, farther back.
Left
No,
here?
The very back of the property.
Oh, back to the subject property?
Yeah,
Oh, here?
no.
Is there a home there?
Where you were marking,
The long parcel directly behind the
Yeah.
body, the
in the
body
very
shop.
back, you got two parcels back there, in the back.
Yeah, they run the length.
Yeah, it don't like there's anything there.
Oh, back here?
Yeah,
Not that I'm aware of.
But those belong to the individual property owner that has
Correct.
the house
They're
in the front.
not owned by the CDW Holdings, who owns the other
Okay, but-
properties.
They're just
They're not-
really, really deep backyards.
yeah.
You got a football field back there.
Mhm.
Youngins
Oh, you
love
do?
it. Well, I mean, not literally a football field.
One matter, point of fact, if we vote on this, and we deny it, is there still opportunity to make an additional motion to defer it, or would this?
If you recommend denial, then that's what you're sending to city council.
Right.
If you approve, then you're telling council you're in support.
So after
of
we
the
vote on
reasoning.
her motion,
Mhm.
pro or con, if it's pro, it goes to city council. If it's con, it goes to the city council.
No.
But there is no other opportunity.
no, sir.
No,
No.
we're just voting on the motion.
You're voting on yay. If you
Yea or
vote
nay.
yes, it goes to city council. If you vote no, then we have to have another motion
Correct.
for either deferral or denial.
Gotcha. Sounds good. I understand.
Okay. Everyone clear? Any questions? Okay, we'll now be voting on the motion to approve the rezoning as presented, based on findings of fact A, C, and D in the affirmative. And I need to be able to see this. So if all those in favor of the motion, please raise your hand. 1, 2, 3. I have 3. Do you have 3?
Do it again, I'm
Put
sorry.
them up again. Ryan needs to count.
I've got 3.
Good. All those opposed? motion doesn't pass. Motion fails. I think so.
Tiebreaker.
The tiebreaker.
I think I can vote, can
And tiebreaker, yeah.
I? Was that a change?
Hmm?
Oh,
It
okay.
actually wasn't.
It wasn't tie. Then I don't vote. So what was it?
It did not pass 3-4.
Thank you.
Oh,
Good. They didn't need me.
Okay, all right. Normally you wouldn't vote until there's a tie.
Okay? Only in
If
case
it-
of
if it's a
tie.
tie.
Tiebreaker.
Only if it's a tie.
We didn't
Obviously,
count
it
as
was not a
vote.
tie.
But I thought it was going to be 3-3.
Okay.
Okay, now, can we have another motion, please?
I'd like to make a motion that we defer a rezoning of this parcel, or these parcels, until we get some additional information from the applicant. And such information would be whether or not they're going to be combining the parcels with the large commercial tract adjacent to it known as Moore Buick, and what their intended use of it is, as well as their intention for any driveway access points along those parcels.
We have a motion to defer,
I will second that.
second by Ms. Vanderveer. Any discussion? Now, this has to come back in a month, am I correct?
Mm-hmm.
We would probably you need to set to
Yeah.
the meeting in November.
Would you, is that done in the motion? Defer for
That
a
would
month?
be best.
Would you make that?
So
Same second?
Okay.
Okay, so we have a motion to defer and second until November.
In the meantime, who is going to, are you the one that would have to contact them to get them more information?
And the city will contact the applicant or his or her representative. And basically what I have is that you want to know whether they're being combined with the Moore
combined
Buick.
as one, there's two parcels being rezoned here in
Right.
the application. Whether they're going to be combined as to one, and also whether they're going to be combined with the primary larger commercial use known as Moore Buick Pontiac, so.
And the use and
they'll
access
have
points.
access to them from the sunset.
That it? Okay, we have a motion. Any other questions? We have a motion on the floor to defer. It's been properly seconded. All those in favor of the motion, please signify by raising your right hand. 1, 2, 3, 4. All those opposed? 1, 2, 3. 4-3, it passes. Just defer. Number 2.
The next item, similar situation on Gateway South. It's located off of Western, next to the Commons. Another car dealership, and you'll see the subject parcel. They recently acquired it and are looking to rezone it from the existing O&I to corridor commercial. Here is the site, looking across the street, across Gateway, towards Western, back towards the Commons. It is currently zoned O&I, or sorry, the future land use as it is park, because it was until recently part of the Jacksonville Common area. And so it was designated as park with the future land use. We would also recommend, just like the other one, changing this to the regional commercial future land use to match the commercial corridor zoning. It's currently zoned O&I and proposed to be rezoned to commercial corridor. Have any questions
Any
or want me to
questions?
flip back to
I
any
have
of
one
the
if-
pictures?
There's nothing on that property, right?
No, currently it's just wooded.
And
Um,
not much of anything across the street from it either.
Nope,
Yeah.
wooded on both sides. It's the entrance as you go into Gateway South into the Commons.
I do have a question. How close does this property come to the playground that we have at the Commons? Do you have an aerial view again?
Yeah, oops.
There it is.
So
It's a
there's,
ways.
this is the retention pond. This is the trails back there, which are you referring to the playground that I think is a little bit off the screen up here if it continued on?
The blue roof, that's
Yeah,
right
Oh,
there it
this
is
one?
in the, yes, yes, ma'am. Okay.
That's the part.
That's
I'm not-
that's like a tot lot playground.
I'm not sure the distance, but the city of Jacksonville has sold them this property.
Oh.
I mean, it went through the proper procedures to sell the land.
What is that appears to be an opening right where the corner is pointing towards the playground? What is that opening?
You mean the clearing,
Yeah, the clearing.
right? A little lower. A little lower.
Come all the way
Little
down.
lower,
Come all
little
the way
lower.
down.
Right there,
Yeah.
right there.
Uh-huh.
That opening, that clearing.
Look like there's something, look like that's part of the playground or?
That part there?
Yeah.
Just an open field.
It
I
looked
I
like
think it's just no,
open.
I haven't
It's
been
just
back in the
open.
woods there, but I don't think, there's nothing that I know of back
No.
there.
There's nothing back there.
Could you talk a little bit about your buffering requirements for development of this, in its proximity to that park and what you generally would require on a site plan development?
Based on the UDO, it's now when a piece of property abuts an unlike zoning district. So this would be quarter commercial next to office
O&I.
institutional, whatever the zoning specified, so probably the 30-foot buffer.
And is that a particular class of vegetation, or is it fencing, or you have many different types of buffering, I assume?
The buffering, we pretty much have one type. It's a 30-foot buffer with trees and shrubs, for every 100 linear feet, and a 6-foot high opaque fence.
So this will probably mean a loss of more
Map.
trees.
No map.
I would assume that if it's going to be developed, yes. I know very little, but from what I understand, there is some talks about, with the sale of the property, there were some certain provisions that were set up for some sort of a stormwater amenity to be created, because I believe some of this area is going to be used for stormwater, and, almost that it becomes similar to the other pond, lake, whatever you want to call it, over here at the front of the commons area. So I know there's been some discussions as it relates to making sure that it is in harmony with our park system.
So how is that controlled? You think it's part of a deed?
Yes, sir. On that one, because the city, like I said, this property went up for sale from what I understand. And, it went through the proper procedures, so.
You don't have a copy of that or anything? Yeah.
It's a shame how many trees we are losing in our community.
I know I've always thought that was like a dedicated park, and I'm surprised to see it zoned as office institutional for the whole park there. Is that just a temporary life as a park, or is it? The
My-
city owns that, and you would think it would have a completely different zoning than,
We don't have a specific park zoning, and the recreation center is also on there, so office institutional has a lot of the governmental uses. So it's probably just the best fitting zone for the parcel as a whole, because this was just split out, this parcel here. So the entire commons is all one big parcel with the same zoning.
interesting.
So it's not just the park, but also the fitness center and things like that.
That kind of opens up a whole discussion. You would think that we would have a more stringent buffer requirement on places that we're really trying to establish as permanent park areas. Because now with it being O&I and you're going to corridor commercial, there's not that big of a difference between them on the zoning map. But clearly our intended use of those is quite different, where you're going to have kids running around, animals and stuff running around. You would think that we could maybe work on that a little bit.
Well, I can tell you that office institutional next to B1, it's a different zone. So, it doesn't matter if it's similar or not. It's a different zoning classification.
Well, definitely, but
So,
Just
it
doesn't seem to
triggers the
fit,
buffering. It's no
park.
different than if that area was zone residential, is my
Right.
point. So, the buffering applies per the code, regardless that it's zoned O&I.
gotcha.
You mentioned stormwater retention. Go back to the previous one where it showed the pond. Are they going to eliminate the current pond and relocate that, or just,
I haven't
I've
seen any
not seen any
development plans.
plans.
So I don't know what the configuration's intended to be.
because it looked like that's a rather big pond for that amount of space there.
I wouldn't think that they were going to do anything. It's probably a pond for Marine Chevrolet, I would think. It's certainly not going to replace the Commons pond.
But it was mentioned something about some plans for stormwater retention as a part of that? Did
Yes, I think you will
misunderstand?
see some stormwater retention on this subject parcel. And I'm pretty sure that based on the deed restrictions, that there's some reference to not just putting up a stormwater utility.
So they'll have to treat their stormwater like any other development, but it'll have to be more of a amenity pond, like at the Commons.
Correct.
With, maybe a walking path or trees or something, rather than just the fenced-up utility pond.
What street is this property on?
This
Yeah,
is Gateway South, this is Western.
okay. Got it.
And did the car dealership already purchase this property?
Yes.
Oh,
And do you know what their plans are, other than having strong, are they going to have, again, put more cars and everything there?
We haven't seen any development plans.
I'd like to make a motion
Please.
to go ahead and approve the rezoning request from O&I to commercial corridor for this piece of property that's been brought before us.
Based upon findings.
Based on finding of facts A, B, and D.
Okay, we have a motion to approve rezoning. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second from Ms. Moore. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor of the motion, please signify by raising your right hand. All those opposed? Unanimous. Thank you very much. Good discussion. Good discussion, people. Reports. Ryan, you're up.
Thank you, Chairman. I've got two items. Number one, I'd like for you to save the date of December the 9th. I'm not sure about times yet, but this is where we've had their boards give council their annual reports in the past. We are discussing the format that we intend to use this year. It may be the same format, it may be different, but just go ahead and, tentatively schedule that December 9th date just in case that's what we're shooting for. It could change. I just want to give the board the most time possible to try to save that date, and I'll send more information.
What time would that be?
Not sure yet.
Would it be evening or?
My guess would be it would be somewhere around 4 or 5 o'clock, but.
I just see I have a doctor appointment that afternoon.
Gotcha. So, send out more information based on that. And then the second thing I would like to report is, beginning on October 1st, the city of Jacksonville went into a mandatory electronic plan submittal for all design professionals. So surveyors, engineers, architects, landscape architects are now required to submit plans using our electronic plan submittal system. And we are getting, we've already had quite a few applications. I reported last week, I think we had 9 that had came in the first week. So just new tools, save some trees and paper. And so just to kind of throw that out there and inform the board and also kind of put that out there. That's all that I have.
Any other reports, Ryan? Before we adjourn, I'd like to, am I correct, tomorrow there's a public hearing from City Council? Schedule? On the proposed trail? And I forgot what time that starts, but,
Proposed trail that runs through,
yeah.
I apologize, I'm not aware of that meeting? Because if it is, it's a special meeting.
It is a special meeting.
Okay.
I heard it was at 6.
I think the paper will elaborate on it. They've run a few articles on it. Okay? And 6 sounds familiar. Any other questions? Concerns?
What is the proposed trail?
It's the bike trail going near or through the Beirut Memorial, 9/11 Memorial. There's been quite a bit of information written in the paper, and people have weighed in on both sides. The council is going to basically have a public hearing so they can hear the will of the people.
Okay.
We were out there the other day, runs right, not on the street side of the memorial, on the other side between the Beirut Memorial. It goes into the Gully area, but it runs there, so that's still close, and it's a great deal.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay, with no other questions, I'll take a motion to adjourn. So moved. We're adjourned.